everyone. Welcome to episode, what is this, 47 of Reptiles and Cocktails. This is definitely going to be a good one for us today. Welcome everybody who's already in the chat. Everybody come in, share this out. This is going to be a good one for those of watching from, I would say my non-reptile areas, like my personal Facebook. You definitely, if you're one of the people who question, are my animals normal or other big snakes normal that you see, and if it's a possibility of the proper keeping of these animals and things like that, or some things that some of you think is unique to me, or unique to others that you may see with big snakes. And it's really, as I try to share, Jim and I are going to talk about that, because I always don't think it's unique to me. I think that, great, they have a good relationship, but Jim is going to go more into detail as well of why he thinks my animals are the way that they are and other people who keep the way that I do. We're going to go into the history of some reticulated pythons. Jim has the history of reticulated pythons in the wild and reticulated pythons here in the U.S. And other animals that he has kept along the way. So, and we're going to talk a lot about Jim's journey in life. It's a great story. This is one that y'all want to hear. His ending story, well, no one's story actually ends, right? But his story as of today, we'll lead up to that as well. I think it's amazing what life he is planning for himself. And it's funny because him being a big reticulated python lover, where that ending will be in the future. So it's pretty dope. Y'all hear me say his name all the time because I have so much respect for him as a person who he's my first 5 reticulated pythons came from Jim. And my very first one came from Jim. And I was a new reticulated python owner. I would say if it was ever a breeder who you say you understand this person is taking on a new animal, this is a new species, and he answered all my questions, gave me all of his feedback without judgment, because there are some things that I'll talk about that we did not, necessarily, like his advice may have been this, but, Jim said, try this, try it. And the outcome of some of that. So we're going to talk about all of that in a few. I just wanted to do a couple quick shout outs real fast. Some mail that I got, and if you mail me something, I am very grateful. I'm horrible. The downside of a P.O. box, people say, get a P.O. box, get a P.O. box. The downside of a P.O. box, y'all, is that you hardly go there, unless you're, I don't know. I just don't go there often to ship or to pick stuff up. So I apologize, but shout out to MJ. I got my official Trap Talk t-shirt. Coolest reptile podcast in the world on the back. So shout out to MJ and all the support that he gives, quite a few of us in the background and wanting to see us win. Then I had this, and I just fell in love with this whole thing. So this was the box it came in. So any of y'all who got a bag from me, it's in this little cute little bag. I'm really big on stuff like that. So the gift could be $1. If the bag or the box is cute, it amazes me. So this right here was the box. And the hoodie inside, I absolutely love. And what I didn't tell them is that this is also the same color as my high school mata. And so I rock this color a lot. My favorite pair of shoes are Balenciagas, and I have them in this color. And Heads and Tails sent me this. I absolutely love this. Very, very nice. I thank you so much. And it was a nice, sweet card in there as well. I appreciate you guys. And this box was just so dope. So dope. So thank you. And I'm keeping the box. Definitely keeping the box. All right, so y'all know how this goes. Let's go ahead and say hi to some of the people in the chat first before we kick out video and get started. Good morning, Maki. Good morning, Eric. Keys, what's up, bro? We had a good time last night. Thank you. Good morning, Zach. Good morning, Bosa. That's right. Represent USR Florida. Hi, Princess Bosa. Hey, Hats and Tails, Tamara and Shane. Thank y'all so much. Love that. Hey, bro. Hey, Justin Cox. Lecca. Hey, Lecca. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. Hey, G. We're going to play our video. And let's get this Christmas Eve popping on Reptiles and Cocktails. Stay tuned. I love that song. All right, so to no further ado, we're going to bring on Jim Jolley. Good morning. Well, it's good morning where Jim is.
Yeah, it is morning here. It is definitely morning here.
So it's like 10 o'clock. So
Yep.
where he is, and it's 1 o'clock where I am. So it's afternoon for us on the eastern side, and the Pacific it is 10. So thank you for joining us this morning. For those of you, I waited a while to get this interview, and I'm very excited to be doing this with one of my favorite breeders of definitely my favorite animal. Y'all know that, the reticulated python. But Jim has more experience than just the retic. So I want him to, it's going to be a lot, y'all. So, because it's history here. And we've had conversations like just in being customer to breeder that explain so much about who you are, Jim, as a seller of the animals, how you feel about the care of the animals, and all of the detailed information that you would give me when you would ship the animals and when I would check in with you. I have purchased animals before from breeders. I like for you to see what your animal looked like a year later, what your animal looked like 2 years later.
Yep.
And I remember the one time I sent you a picture with one of the first ones, and you said, and I was like, I'm so proud of where we are. And you was like, I'm watching you doing a really good job. And that really makes me feel good. And as a breeder now of ball pythons, that's something that I definitely want to embrace, is stand in that real natural conversation and contact with my customers. So I thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. I don't always get follow-up from people. They buy an animal and then, yeah, it arrived, it's live, seems okay. Week later, they'll tell me it's eaten, everything's good, and then they phase out. You don't hear anything from them. Wow. I like to hear about them. I like to see them. And when when people say, oh, well, here's my Facebook, here's this, I'll go to it. I'll join them. I'll friend them. And yeah, if it pops up, I watch the stuff. I check it out. If they do videos, pictures, stories, I check it out as much as I possibly can. I'm glad to see the animals doing well. I'm glad to see people enjoying the animals, because if you can't enjoy it, what fun is it?
Exactly.
It can be a miserable existence to have something that you can't enjoy, whether it be any kind of animal, a car, anything like that. If you buy a nice car and you want to drive it and all you do is work on it, you're not going to like that car much, But
I agree. And they're such amazing animals that I think, and we're going to talk about that. I think, well, before we go here, I want to go here. Tell everyone, okay, so who is Jim? Where's Jim from, and how did Jim get into reptiles?
Okay. I think what I first want to start off with is something for me personally. I have Tourette's. It's not a vocal. I don't spurt off words until I'm pissed off, and then I'll say everything in the world to somebody. But yeah, I don't say words. I have little twitches, little, shoulder twitch, that kind of stuff. I'm not on drugs. I'm not tweaking. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that at all. Been actually physically clean since 1991.
Yeah.
Most people, yeah. And sober since 97. And that's something that has a lot to do with, I think, where I'm at. I'm 60 years old. Turned 60 10 days ago. Grew up in a little area in Sunland, Tahunga in Los Angeles County, California.
Okay.
We moved here when I was like months old. So, where I was born in Sterling, Illinois, I couldn't tell you nothing about it, Brought up in a good family, good morals, good upbringing. We weren't rich. And we was made clear from the get-go, anything we wanted as kids, other than food, clothing, that kind of stuff, we were provided. If we wanted a car, we had to save for it and buy. We had to save for our insurance. We had to save for everything. I wanted a motorcycle. I wanted to start riding dirt bikes. I had to save the money up and do that. Started working, doing yards and that kind of stuff. When I was 12 years old, 5th grade teacher assigned us a choose all science project. Choose a report, choose a subject and do some kind of report on it.
Right.
I decided I wanted to do something on a snake. Okay. So I got into the encyclopedias that we had because, in the 70s, we didn't have the internet. So got into encyclopedias, started looking up things, made a little snake snare. Dad took me out to the canyon a couple of times, caught a snake. Now, he acted like it was a cobra right off the Don't touch it. Don't this. Let's take it home. Let's identify it. My dad was from Iowa. So, it's like, let's identify it. Let's, before we do any handling. Yeah, couldn't even get near it. On a pole, into a tank, locked down. Took it home. It was your typical gopher snake. And I did a report on the, breeding process, its life cycle, its region, its temperatures, what they eat, how long they live. I just made it kind of, science related, and I had that animal for, a year or so, turned it loose. And, through the years, I'd caught king snakes, gopher snakes. We lived between mountains. So, we saw a lot of that growing up. As I got a little older, I got in a boa, got in a ball python, and best friend of mine in my 20s, still my best friend, known him forever. He picked up about a 12-foot Burmese python. Okay. And I was like, oh no, this isn't going to be, this isn't going to work. So I had to have something cooler. And early 20s, you just had the cool stuff. So I started looking through what we had back then was called the recycler, which was the print process of Craigslist, more or less. So I started going through the recycler, and I found a guy that was in an area about 45 minutes from where I lived that had reticulated pythons.
Okay.
Called him up.
And what year was this?
This was 86.
Okay.
1986. And he basically told me, oh, that, you know, they're pretty much like berms, care-wise, except for retics get longer before they get thick, and berms get thick before they get
long.
Right. I was like, oh, well, then it'll get big fast. You know, because, yeah. Well, they were actually captive bred babies.
Oh, wow.
And that was almost unheard of at the time.
In 86, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was a shop in the valley where I lived, about a half hour in Van Nuys, called Slither City. Not related to any other form of slither anything that exists in this day and age, to be clear. But
we're not going there today, Jim.
No, I'm just saying anything slither related in this history time. They had Burmese pythons and a couple of retics. They were one of the first places in California that got an albino berm. But, you know, their prices, of course, were through the roof. And,
right.
You know, this guy had captive bred baby reticulated pythons for $100. And I met up with the guy, and it was cool. It was a beautiful animal. It was maybe 3 months old, and got it, took it home, treated it like any other snake that needed certain temperatures, certain, you know, that kind of stuff. And it was like nothing to me. I figured, oh, it's just, you know, whatever. I would go into pet shops and every now and then get a feeder. And I would get this like, oh, what do you got? What are you feeding? Expecting that I was going to say a boa or a ball python. I'd say a reticulated python. And most of the time I got a reaction like it was an alligator. I mean, they would literally be like, oh, God.
Some people still give that reaction.
Yeah. They were like, literally, oh, God, really? Oh, man. Well, I had, you know, through the years of those early few years that I had it, whenever I go in a pet shop, I'd look around to see if they had reticulated pythons. And a few places that I'd found them in were wild caught imports, and they were absolutely nuts. I remember one place had a load of them that had just come in, and they were so messed up neurologically. They were all over the place. They were twisting upside down and just doing, you know, on the tank. You know, they had like 10 of them in a 40-gallon tank, just on trying to crawl straight, and they were rolling and just doing crazy stuff, which I'm sure back then loaded with parasites and everything else and hadn't been treated. But that kind of stuff is what got our industry, you know, the reticulated python, their reputation.
Gotcha.
You know? And yeah, it was just like, man, that light, I have a light with a sensor on it, and it keeps going off. But yeah, and then I was like, oh man. But after a little bit, after like a year and a half, 2 years of people acting like that, I went to the library and I started doing studies, you know, doing some research on them. And that's when I found out, you know, back then they were saying they get into the 30-foot range. They're known to go on the shores of small villages and eat livestock and children. And, you know, just like, oh my God, at the time, mine was maybe 7 foot or so. I was with a girl at that time. My first wife turned into my first wife. She had 2 small children. One was like 6 months old, and the other one was like 3 years old. And we were living together, and I was like reading this stuff going, oh my God. My animal was completely cool as can be. Like I would open the cage, let it come out to me, You know, kids would play with it, do all that like it was nothing. But it just goes back to that, you know, if you take a dog, and I don't care what breed of dog, you can take a Shih Tzu, if you put it on a chain and throw it in your backyard, and the only time that animal sees you is when you're throwing food at it, that dog's gonna suck.
Yeah.
I mean, that dog's gonna suck. And I mean, I had a 110-pound American Bulldog for 12 years. Amazing animal. Love that dog. And great animal, you know, great with people, great around kids, everything, you know. But again, I interacted with that dog constantly. We went everywhere. He went camping with me. When I went out on camping trips for off-road riding, he went on the trip. Go to the mountains hiking, he went, you know, did everything with him that I could take him with me.
Right.
And a great dog, you know. I know.
And you talked about that dog because I think I called you one time and said, hey, what did you think about dogs around the Retics? I said, because, you know, at that time, that's when they really started like coming out and roaming. And you said, hey, he was, you know, they was raised around a bulldog, you know.
Yeah. He would sit at the doorway. My snake room I built about a year after I moved into my house in 08.
Okay.
It's a 14 by 21 room. And I've got a door that goes into my garage and a door that goes out into my patio. And, you know, on nice nights when it's warm, when I'm out there working, I leave the door wide open. He'd come and go as he pleases. And he'd sit at the doorway and just watch me. Just watch me. But go out to the rat room and, man, if something hit the ground, there was more than once that dog knocked me flat on my ass. I mean, to get that rat, oh man, he was on it. He was on it. So, but yeah, you know, as babies, I'd let him sniff them, check them out. He never come running in the room when I had anything big out, but he'd stand at the doorway or sit at the doorway and just watch, just observe what's going on, watch. So I never had a problem, you know, but I never let him get really, really close with the, you know, with the big ones.
Right, with a bigger one.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I don't want to chance how they go because I can't save either one of them, right?
Right.
I can't get in the middle of this.
No, that's not going to go well at all if something happens because, you know, that's a lot of dog. That's a lot of snake.
It's a lot of snake.
You know, like the picture I sent you with me holding that berm, the my albino, or not berm, my live golden child. You know, that's a 2-year-old picture. She's a little bigger, a little bit thicker. She's actually gravid right now. But yeah, I mean, that snake having interaction with an animal like my dog at a bad time could be very bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, and that's the thing. I say I just don't never want to change it. So what we do here is when they're out, the Rottweiler has a room. He just go in the room or he's in the backyard. Whatever. It depends on the weather. But the Yorkie pool antagonizes them. They don't react. Like he comes, get right in front of their enclosures and, you know, just antagonize them. They don't react. But I don't want to see how they might react when they get the Yorkie pool out. I always tell Nino, I said, Nino, I don't want to be laying up here in here. I can't save you after that.
Yeah, that's it happens so quick. I mean, period. It really does. People don't realize how quick these animals think.
Yes.
They really do. And I'll tell you, Danny Solis posted a picture up a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
Of a retic at the edge of a cage, you know, on one of his adventures, posted up waiting for bats. These things catch bats midair. I mean, that's pretty quick.
And what I say, like I say to people all the time, because a lot of times when I'm showing people and I'm showing the snake movement, it's moving slow. But you can see a retic go from 0 to 100 real quick. Like if they grab a focus on something, like how that body can just glide, like just go.
It changes quick, and if they got something on their mind that they want to have happen, and they act like everything is a rush, like they're gonna miss it. You know, if they don't do it now, they're gonna miss out on it. So
it's so funny, but that's one of the things that. So let's talk about the evolution of the retic from the time that you started getting when you first bred the retics, was it a wild caught or did you get them from Bob Clark or Will
Well,
or
I through my
Will Banks?
20s, through my 20s into my 30s, I was a moron. I lived a lifestyle that was not conducive to having any kind of animal. I got in trouble. I had handcuffs on me more than a couple of times. There was a 10-year span of my life. I didn't go 6 months without being in jail for one reason or another.
Yeah.
A lot of stupid stuff, but in 97, it got serious, and it got serious quick. And I ended up looking at 25 to life for a year. In jail, going to court, looking at 25 to life for a year. It wasn't over drugs. It wasn't over alcohol. It was a fight.
Wow.
And the other person got hurt. And the way the law took it was a whole lot different than what had happened. But again, that's a story. But I got out and I ended up doing 6 years straight. I got out in 2003.
Yep.
Now, evolution of the world between 97 and 2003 had changed drastically. Nobody had cell phones when I went in. Nobody had home computers.
Okay.
Nobody had nothing in 97 like that, unless you had a lot of money and you had this massive phone system in your car.
Right.
But, my brother gave me a place to stay till I got back on my feet, put me in a spare bedroom where his computer was at. And I was like, I got to learn that thing. And after going through and doing searches and learning how to do searches, I came across, a reticulated python search I was doing. And it was the first time I saw a lab albino retic. And I was like, it took me back to the first time I saw an albino berm, which was at the San Diego Zoo in the 80s. I've seen pictures of it in the in magazines and that kind of stuff. San Diego Zoo has an amazing reptile facility. And they had a very large albino berm in probably a 10 by 10 to a 12 by 12 corner glass enclosure. Amazing setup. I sat there for like 45 minutes looking at this thing going, that's fake. That's fake, man. That's got to be fake. Till it finally moved. And I was like, wow, just an amazing animal at the time, Well, I saw that picture of that lab albino retic and I was blown away. At the time, when I got out, I had nothing. I went back to working at a shop. I'm a motorcycle mechanic by trade. Went back to working at a shop that I'd worked at before. I was a lead mechanic. I went back to shop bitch pretty much. I was making $8 an hour, but I was working like 55, 60 hours a week, 10, 12-hour days, 7 days a week. I had nothing better to do at that time than work. And that's the one thing I know. I can work. I work. Yeah. I saw that animal. I looked at the price and I about passed out. They were $18,000.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know how, making $8 an hour at the time. I don't know how. Somehow, some way, I'm going to have one of those. I am going to have one of those. And from there, I started doing research online about breeding and about this and about that. Before then, I never considered breeding. Never until then. I owned them. Nobody else I knew ever had a retic. So yeah, I just did everything I could to inform myself and look into it. And I started buying, at this time, Bob Clark, Nerd, Prehistoric Pets, they all had websites. Kingsnake.com was going pretty big at the time. So I started looking on there and looking, and I started saving and scrimping and buying heads. Buy one here, buy one there, get a female. A year later, I'd get a male. And in, what was it, 2006, I think it was, I came across a guy that had a female, 100% het albino.
Mm-hmm.
She was a 2003 hatchling. Backed it up with documentation from Prehistoric Pets. That it come from them and what it was. And he had it up on King Snake, or actually he had it on Fauna. And he wanted $1,000 for the snake, a 6-foot vision, and the basic supplies and all that. And I was like, man, that right there is going to put me 2 years ahead of my schedule. So the only problem was I'm in Los Angeles, and this was in Spokane, Washington. So I left Saturday night from work, drove all night to Spokane, picked the animal up. The animal went from a 12-foot snake to a 13-foot snake to a 14-foot snake to when I got there. I mean, normally people say, oh, it's 18 foot, and you don't look at it,
Right.
and it's 9 feet. And that's, I mean, I'm telling you, I've gone all over LA County looking at 16-foot berms that fit in a 40-gallon tank. Like, so, yeah. And this one actually kept growing as our conversations went. And then it went to, well, it goes back and forth in a 6-foot vision about 3 times. And I'm like, she was a big girl. She was, and she was healthy. And the interaction when I got there was almost comical. The guy had a little bit of apprehension with the animal.
Okay.
I got there. The first thing I did was open up the glass to get a gauge on her, see how jumpy she is. And basically, I was putting her in a huge motorcycle gear bag to get her into my truck. And then everything else was going to go in the back. And the guy grabbed the glass and shut it. And he was like, oh, God, no, dude. If she gets out, it's going to be pandemonium. I'm like, she's going in the bag. I'm not loading a cage and driving back to LA in snow country with a snake in the back. So she was big, but we got her in, got home. I had 6 buddies come over to help me get her into the house. I opened up the bag in the living room and pretty much walked her down the hallway into my little snake room and into the cage. And I'm like, right off
What's
the
the problem?
Yeah. She tried to go into the bathroom because I didn't close the door. But, one of my buddies, when we got her out, was like, God, what a monster. God. So we named her Monster.
Okay.
She was, but she's a sweetheart. She's actually cool as can be. She cycled about 6 months later.
Okay.
I put a lab albino tiger in with her that I had, little male that was about a year old. And she put out 52 eggs.
Now, does my lab tiger go back to that snake? Is that
Yes.
its lineage? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had a question about that one, and I had a question about the tiger pod. Does the tiger pod goes back to the original lineage of the first tiger pod that you know of?
Yeah. Well, my pods came from Bob.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll touch that in just a second. But
okay.
Yeah, she dropped 52 eggs. All good, no slugs. And that was in the winter of 07 going into 08.
The ball python breed is saying 52 eggs.
Yeah. I got to tell you, there is joy in doing ball python stuff, because when you take a female and you do this off the eggs, it really is nice. Or you put a male in there, it's done. Yeah, it's a lot of eggs and it's a lot of babies that hatch out. But yeah, they all survived. They all hatched out. So in '08, I had 52 baby retics. I started putting them online. I had people actually, I put them in group. I put groups. I put a albino tiger. I got whites and labs. She was het white. It was a lab tiger, so I got whites and labs.
Okay.
Back then, the rumor that was you can breed white to white and get purples. You can do this. You can get purples out of anything. It's just how the dice roll. We know genetically, and those are words out of Bob Clark's mouth.
Oh, wow.
At that time, again, what we know now genetically is like, no, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But I was like, man, that's a lot of babies. I built me a baby rack, got it going, got them feeding, and I interacted with them a lot. From out of the egg, I rinse them down, and then I put them in a little tub. I put 5 or 6 in a tub with a little bit of water, let them soak for a minute, then rinse them off again. And what I do now, I'll take 8 to 10 babies, and I'll put them in a CB70 and put them in the rack through their first shed. And that to me gets them socialized, gets them used to movement, gets them used to what's going on. They don't get jumpy as edgy.
Right.
And once they've shed out, I individualize them into a rack and I get them feeding. Okay. But I actually was putting lab albino, lab tiger, or albino tiger, albino tiger head albino, and normal head albino as a package, 4-pack for $1,000 plus shipping. Wow. And I had people on Fauna going, "Oh, that's a scam. There's no way." And it's like, I'm Joe Blow nobody, Jim Jolley. Nobody knows me. I can't compete with Bob. I can't compete with Prehistoric Pets. The only thing I can do is be more competitive price-wise. And I still try and be that. Now, I haven't gotten this, I am who I am. I've been doing it 17 years, blah, blah, blah. I still try and have very fair pricing, And if somebody comes at me and shows me, well, this is this, okay, man, I'll beat that. I ain't got a problem with that. Getting my pies was an experience in the whole socializing deal, because my first ball python that I personally ever thought was cool, because I don't like ball pythons by general.
Right.
Okay? But I saw the pieds and I was like, that's freaking cool. I mean, I loved the pieds. And when the pied retics came out, I was like, oh God. Well, this is gonna hurt, but I gotta get some. So I got my pair direct from the man, and I don't even think they had their first shed yet. Wow. I really don't. And what a lot of people don't know or realize is in the first couple of years that Bob sold the pies, Bob lays on projects. He acts like, we finally did this. And he had that shit for 2 years. He's got 8-foot adult males that he's using, So after the first year that he came out with pies, everything after that, he was using albino male to his female hets and all that. So everything was het albino. Whether he sold it as a het albino or not, or labeled it het albino, was on him. So everything was 100% het albino. I knew that. I got a good deal for the most part, but it wasn't cheap. And I got them, and they weren't high whites. Basically, I got, all right, I'll send you a pair. I didn't get pictures to choose from. I didn't get, I like that. No, right. I got a pair sent to me. That's what I got. And I got what I got. And they weren't high whites. Turned out to be tigers. There was tiger in there. So when I bred them, and my first thing was, They were nuts. They were, I mean, if you haven't dealt with a wild caught of anything, you don't know. And I swear,
what it really could be like.
what it really could be like. I mean, I could swear these things were import shipped. You know, they were not cool. They were not nice. I took a lot of little needle bites. I worked with them and worked with them and worked with them. And I gotta be honest, the male really never came around. The female took about 1.5 years to where trust was good both ways. Right. I've got a video out there of me with the cage open. She's literally in my face. You know, she was a little flighty for another year. Like she liked to take off every now and then, but just kind of guide her back and work with her. But now I sold her a couple of years ago, kind of getting ready for my big life change.
Right.
And regret every minute of it. I mean, I really do. And she's, man, the person that's got him, Izzy got her. And, you know.
And I wanted it. I really did. But so again, like at that particular time, that's where your addiction, because it's an addiction, you know.
Oh, yeah.
It's an addiction.
And I've got an addicted personality, so.
Right. So you have to manage it, right? So when you asked me about the tiger, and you remember when I got my first tiger from you, I was in love with all of them. Every picture you sent, I'm like, I just want them all.
Yeah.
I just want them all. But that was a dream snake for me. So that was one of my first dream snakes. If I was going to get a retic after the Molly Golden Child, had to have the all black. You know, I had to have the one that looks real iridescent. So I got that first. And then it was the pied. I got all of my snakes from Jim, y'all, in the order of how I visualized the dream. And he happened to have everything that I wanted except the cow. And I ended up getting the cow, the Golden Child cow from Nerd at that particular time. But I will tell you, the tiger was the one I asked you all the questions about because of the reputation. I'm like, how is it? Is it going to be very? I already had one at this time, and she was fine. She was perfect out the box. She was out the box out in shed. The Molly Golden Child son. She was in shed out the box, and she was a sweetheart. So I said, Jim, send me a video, and he whipped this tiger pod, and the snake just sweetie. And you said to me, when they say puppy dog tame, that's what he is. To this day, the one that never changes, and not that any of them change that where they go into a defensive mode, but you know, they have their moves. Like to Child, the Molly Golden Child son, the females can have days where they just don't want to be bothered. You know, yeah. I just don't want to be bothered today. Bye. Yeah,
you can open the glass, pat them on the butt, and they'll be like, leave me alone.
Yes,
leave me alone. Leave that glass open for 3 hours and they never even look at you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know the difference. You know. So I train my son that, because the weird thing, Jim, though, is that my son never gets the bump from the females. Only me.
Really?
Never. So I asked him, I wonder if it's been times with the Molly Golden Child, I just think she has a crush on him or something. She'll bump me, and then I still have to get her out because the bump is normally don't bother me. There's sometimes that even if it bumps me, I still have to remove it because I have to do something in there. And so normally she's just more like, okay, I'm coming out, but leave me alone still once I come out. So you get her out on the floor and she'll just ball up, opposed to coming out and going everywhere like she normally do. So understanding that. But what that also teaches me, Jim, is how people can think that they're like to handle. On days like that, I know that's not her day to roam the house. So let me do what I got to do, and she goes back in. That's one retic you ain't got to bother with until she's ready for you.
You know, I hear it all the time. Oh, it loves to be handled. No, it tolerates it. You love to handle it. It tolerates you. You know? Yes, they can interact and they can identify with who they're with. And you know, I mean, I still have that normal. I don't cycle her. I don't feed her up. She's healthy. She's a good animal. I do a couple of charity events with her. I actually used her on Big Brother. Geez, 10 years ago in one of
wow.
in one of their house competitions. Come on, Light.
Okay.
There we go. In one of the house competitions, we set her up, and the guests had to guess the animal's length. We had her in a 6-foot glass enclosure, and they had to guess the animal's length in inches. After we'd already had her out, did a measurement, put her in there, and then they came out and did the house competition, and that was one of the things that they did. But everybody, there's people that be like, it's just a normal het albino. She's my pet.
Right.
For me, it's not just breeding. I have these animals because I love the animals. I love interacting with them. I love interacting with some more than others.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain ones that not every retic. I'm straight up. Not every retic is the sweetest retic in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I have 3 out of 40 something. No, I adult and subadults.
You still have 40 something?
Yeah. After downsizing. Yeah. After downsizing. But I will have to say the 3 that I have did not come from me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get them until they were already adults.
I think, and you hear me say that a lot, I truly believe when people ask how mine's are all the same. Now, mind you, I have 8, 5 from you, and 2 other breeders, right?
Right.
And they all are the same. But I got them all as babies. Like none of them came to me, and I think that's because another thing that we talked about was their memory. Like you made that clear. They remember everything. So whatever you do, give them good experiences, even if it has to be short experiences.
Well, that's just it. One bad experience can set you forever. I mean,
I got that loud and clear.
Forever. They say elephants remember. Well, God, if you get on the bad side of one, it doesn't seem like it ever goes away.
And that's why I'm particular about, like, I only let people who want to handle them. You have to be confident because I don't want you to drop my snake, especially the younger ones, or anything that's going to traumatize them towards people. And I think that is what happened. Like I look at even one of the reasons why I don't spend a lot of time in the retic forums, because there's so much that comes through there that it's tempting to comment on, but that's not my place. Now, if I have a relationship with you, I'll give you my feedback, which I have given people feedback that will tell you it changed their lives, as far as handling their snakes. They will shout me out for it all the time. Like, oh my God, you were so right. I'm like, I'm telling you, I spent enough time because my first set of retics is where I really had to learn the different personalities. That's why I wanted the male and I wanted the female.
Yeah.
One of the biggest lies that I think I was told initially is that the females would be easier than the males. Now I get where people was concerned about when male in the breeding mode. That male I got right now in the breeding mode, although he act weird as crap, it's funny with the arching and stuff like that. He actually settled down this week from it, but he is not at all. He's still very much the same. He knows it's me. He comes out. I'm still being like intuitive to make sure that he doesn't do anything to harm himself. More importantly, is what I worry about than anything. Because I know with my retics, if they come out on their own, they want to come out. They're ready to come out to explore. It's not going to be anything. That's the best feeling, to be able to slide the glass over and just let them slowly come out.
On out.
Yeah. The ones that don't actually. Speaking of that, the ones who I still have to like the golden child cow. If she's not awake, you definitely want to put the hook on her. Like she's not one that you're going to just wake up and she's not going to think she's eating first. And it's something about that golden child that their feeding responses are different from even my tiger, the ones with the tiger blood, which I expected differently because clearly my tiger blood are growing much faster
Yeah.
than the others. But I think that's what I tell people, Jim. I think that if you're going to get a retic, I say one thing: who you getting it from? Because I tell people all the time, they're like, "I'm getting it from." I'm like, "Who is that?" Like, who is that? And I'm not talking about genetics. I'm talking about your experience with this animal, because it's never a baby snake. This thing is a big snake when it's born.
Yeah, they don't come out small. They really don't. They come out of eggs the size of your fist, so they don't come out small.
Yep. And they also, I think that when they're younger, not for me because you did all the work, but when they're coming out as babies, they're way more defensive than other snakes would be.
Yeah.
So what is your experience? Have you ever had a situation with a reticulated python that was so not manageable that you just said, I have to get rid of this particular snake?
But that's where it engages a problem for me, both morally, I guess you could say, because if I can't handle this animal,
the next person won't.
Who's going to? Yeah, I mean, I mean, like Jeff Kelly's a buddy of mine, great guy. Okay. But it's like I couldn't give a certain. I've got one that I'm like, if I gave this to Jeff, it'd destroy him the first chance it got. Jeff would be in the same shoes I'm in, So I'm kind of forced to deal with them. I just am. Again, there are other breeders out there that, if they say, well, yeah, I'll take it, whatever, they want it, they've got the experience. There's, like I said, but if it wasn't somebody like Jeff, like a handful of the other guys back east, that knowing 100%, hey, this is what this is. I mean, I've got the one, she's in a Centec. I've got her in an 8-foot stack with a divider for a reason. I put the divider in, I clean one side, get the water dish out. I have broken more glass in that Centec because of her. If you give her that much room of a crack, next thing you know, she's in your face. I mean, literally in your face. I learned she's in a little middle cage. I put a trash can under it now. So if I have to let go of the door, it doesn't swing down, bash, because it doesn't just bash the glass out and hurt.
Right.
It bashes the glass out in the cage underneath it too.
Right. So, wow.
Yeah. I had an experience with her. I was like, after going through this in a 6-foot cage, I put her in the Centec, and I'm like, that snake will never come out of that cage again. It's unfortunate. It sucks. But I mean, if I get near that thing, she's on. Wow. She is on it. If I'm cleaning, I cover her glass up because I don't want her striking the glass every time.
Because it hurts her.
Right.
They're so stubborn. It would, you wouldn't even realize it.
She got out on me a couple of months ago, and it was 2 hours. When I was cleaning, she got that lucky shot at me. I stepped back, and she lunged 8 foot. She's a 12-foot animal.
Right.
He lunged 8 foot of her out of the cage. And that left a very short moment before the other 4 foot was out.
Yes.
And from there, it was get the doors closed because I'm not doing this in my garage and I'm not doing this in the patio. And then it went from one area to another for 2 hours trying to get her coached back into the cage.
It's her cage, yeah.
And I was done. I was wore out. I mean, I was covered in sweat, and I was like, God, this is what I don't want people going through.
Right.
Because you think, oh, this animal. And no, people think, oh, this animal I got from this person,
Right.
you know, because I know where that animal came from. And I'm like, God, what does he do? What does this guy do with this animal?
And that's the thing. I think that's the importance of. So let's go into one of the things that we're talking about. A lot of people have downsized their collection. You're kind of different. Your downsizing is because, and let's talk about, like, Jim has been building a home in Thailand.
Working on it. we got the property part.
The land.
Kind of done. I still don't have paper on it. Their land management over there takes their time. You know, we were supposed to have it back in October. The neighbors got to approve that it's okay, that the measurement was all right. And I'm like, it's been paid for 8 months. So yeah, I'm not going to put a board on that thing until you got
the paper. That's right.
Right. Yeah. My plan within the next year is to pretty much move to Thailand and retire.
And that's so exciting. Like, I remember when you first said, well, first of all, my first reaction was, because at that time I was still buying Retics. No, who am I going to get my Retics from?
You're like, I got to get everything I need before you leave.
Yes. I said, so let me order this. Make sure.
Make sure you get this. Make sure you get that.
Are we producing any cows? Because I need to get that too.
Yeah, I know when you wanted the cow, I was like, man, I've done I think 3 cow clutches in the past, and it's like they go fast. They go really fast. And you know, in a 25 egg clutch, you don't get 12 cows. You know,
right.
you get a handful. You know, people don't realize that you get a handful. It's a mix of other stuff.
They are very unique, right? A lot.
I do.
When you Jim, so that's why Jim did a lot of his downsizing. Now, with that process, and let's think about where we are with Retics today. Because my thing is, initially I wanted to breed them, and my mind shifted because once I started to keep them, I'm like, I'm so attached to these animals. People are not going to keep y'all like I keep y'all. And if you're going to get one of my animals, you're going to have to keep them and spend that time with them, right?
Right.
Because I think that's when you get the experiences. I want people to have the experiences I have, not the, oh my God, this 18-foot snake is not even letting me get its water bowl, I want to show like the possibilities of having a good relationship if you put these good measures in place in raising the animal. Yeah. Do you think that the hobby, what direction do you think the hobby with reticulated pythons are going here in the United States? Because I know in Thailand you might have a different response.
It seems like everybody, and I mean everybody, that gets a retic is breeding a retic. Is the market overpopulated? I believe so. People complain. I know, I hear it all the time. Now you know the forums, all the pages and all that, and I pop on every now and then. I used to be more active.
If we tag you.
Yeah. I'm not on there every day talking about this, talking about that, showing this, showing that. I have what I consider my market. I get people, return customers all the time. Like my market's pretty steady. I get stuff. I don't even put it up. I do a few shows here in California, Vegas, Arizona through the year, and I do good. But again, I get new people that roll up on the table. Well, what do they like? What do they like? And it's like I tell them, there isn't a thing on this table that I haven't produced and that I can't reach in, take out, and feel secure. I set my displays up with heat. A lot of people put the acrylic displays up there. They're good for the weekend. I put heat rope underneath everything, so everything's up to temperature. A cold snake, doesn't move
Right.
much. Cold snake doesn't react much.
Yep.
So yeah, my snakes are warm. They're active. They are what they are personality wise when they see them, when they get to experience them. Where the hobby's going, I think it's just, we've got some good breeders out there. There are some guys making some killer stuff. I got years ago all into the world's first stuff and the world's this and the this and that. And that's great. Makes awesome killer animals. Seen some beautiful stuff coming out in the last couple of years by really good breeders and good people. I've gone to Tinley. I've met all the people back east. Had a great weekend there. I like meeting the people, seeing the animals in person, but it's hard to say where it's going in the way of what it's going to be like if people keep doing what they're doing.
Right. See, I would like, so one of the things I would like, and the reason why that I advocate for the reticulated python so much, and I'm just honest with people, I wish I had met Randy Marquindra. You had an experience at Nerd years ago, because I wish I had not missed out on the time of not having them, because they're different animals. They are different.
Oh yeah.
I say to anybody, if you are a snake lover and you get a reticulated python that you will engage with, you will have a total different experience. I remember saying I only want one and I would never get no more than one. And then it was like me calling Jim every month, like, Jim, do you have this? Jim, do you have this?
Yeah.
And then it got so bad, Jim, I'm like, just show me what you got. I'm ready to pick something up what you got.
It's crazy, and on that side of people getting them, at the shows, I have kids coming up, teenagers coming up wanting to look at stuff, and it's like, man, without your parent here, I can't do anything.
Absolutely.
I just can't, and I won't. I won't do a sale. I won't do a handle until a parent says, yeah, it's okay. I don't have a problem with it. I have people come up to my tables all the time. Well, we're looking for a first snake for my son here, and he's got an 8-year-old son, or daughter, or whatever. We're looking for our first snake, and I'm like, and they're looking at the retics, and I dabble in ball pythons because not everybody needs a retic.
Right, and that's a fact. That's a fact.
I don't want an 8-9-year-old child making the wrong move, getting railed by a 5-foot retic, and hating snakes for the rest of their life.
And that's it, Jim, what you just said, making the wrong move. So I tell the story of the only time in my entire life that I ever been bit by a snake was a baby retic. Neither of yours, because I think they're just so smart when they come back and wave my hands and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
But, literally.
Yes.
But that kind of stuff is important. We do that. That's why we let them out.
Right.
I'll give you an example. People talk about all this. I'll get inboxes say, Nicole, oh my God, my retic went behind the chair. How do I get it out? I'll say, go get it out. Well, what do you mean it's being defensive? Move the chair.
Get it out.
Otherwise, you're going to wait until that retic wants to come out itself. So this is a good opportunity for you to learn how to engage with that retic in that moment. In that moment, you got to show the animal that we can do this. You know what I mean? I don't know how, but we're going to do this. And then that girl, the person will inbox me the next day. It's like, oh my God, you was right. All I did, it did bump me, but you still proceed. Just watch the way it turns, because the beauty that you have with a retic, I still feel, no matter how big it is that it tells you when I'm ready. You get warnings, unlike a green tree python who just go, you can.
Or an anaconda.
Even their eyes, even if it doesn't move, their eyes move a certain way when they, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they give you that. They give you the Clint Eastwood.
Yes. I posted a picture of the golden child one day. It was like, if you want to see a resting bitch face on a retic, here it is.
Yeah. Make my day.
Let you know.
Yeah, I noticed, and I got told this by Tim at Prehistoric Pets. In my beginning, I spent a lot of time down there. I spent a couple of weekends a month for a couple of years volunteering down there. You know, they're about a 2.5 hour drive for me because I wanted all the information I could get. I wanted to know. I didn't want to just throw a male at a female and God, I hope it works. I wanted it to work. I wanted to know what I was doing. I wanted to know every aspect. I don't want to screw up on incubating. I didn't want to do any of that in a failure mode. You know, I didn't want to hope. And Tim told me when you're messing with them and they stop and they do this head dip, pay attention.
Pay attention.
Pay attention. Because that's their warning. At least they give you a warning. Anacondas.
Yeah, that's what I love about them. They give you a warning. Like, it's no question. Like, one of the things that, like, even with my husband, I think it made him so comfortable. He never thought that you would be able to just engage with a snake like that. So my retics have this thing, and I'm only 5'3", where they'll come up, you know, and they can get pretty high up on their bodies. And so my husband said, that don't scare you. I'm like, no. Like, now, if he was coming up and he's drawn back like this, that's different. He's coming straight up, and I can put my hand right under his chin, and then it's kind of, he'll just kind of come up, and, you know, you get to learn those things, but you're not going to learn those things if you don't let the snake out.
Yeah, you have to interact. You have to. You know, when I'm cleaning, I'm out there. I'm out in my room every night. Every cage gets cleaned every week. Every water dish gets gone through twice a week, unless I see something I go in and it needs to be done. You know, if and it happens all the time. Clean a cage, 2 hours later, they done made a mess.
Yep.
Back in that same cage, shoveling it out, putting fresh bedding in. But yeah, you have to interact with them. If you don't know your animal, you know, it's just like people.
And they all have different personalities.
Right. You know, you work with certain people. Certain guy can take a certain kind of joke. Another guy going to get offended, and you're going to be in the parking lot going, it was a joke, dude. I mean, yeah.
Same thing.
Same with these animals. Absolutely, you know.
So I gotta ask, with your experience, because I know one of your favorite snakes in your life was a berm. All right, so berm, retic, your favorite animal.
I don't own a berm anymore.
Okay, so that's the answer.
Yeah. I mean, that's as far as I can go with that. I don't know. Berms were actually the first thing I produced. You know, I had a big 16-foot female, and she bred. I had an albino male. I put it to her, and I made a bunch of het albino babies. I think it was like 68 of them. And I was like, I mean, those things put out eggs like no tomorrow, man. But it's like, man, them babies come out of the eggs biting. And it don't matter.
Can you tell berms are so much more temperamental as babies than any retic I had? And I got my berm. So Pearl, that's how she got the name Miss Pearl. Because mind you, when I got her, I had already had 2 retics at this point. So let me go ahead and get a berm. Let me see how I like it before I proceed. So I got Pearl. Pearl was the huffiest snake I ever had. I mean, you know that berms are very
huffy. They literally huff.
Very. So that's how she got the name Miss Pearl, because I would go in there and be like, look, Miss Pearl, you coming out anyway. We're going to go do this, do that. But she never struck. Now, then we get the one from the wild. The wild court was sweeter than the captive bred. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me why. Wow. Way sweeter than the captive bred. Both of them are sweet now, but Pearl was a very huffy baby, and none of my retics were huffy.
They seem to grow out of it after about 8 to 10 months. But out of the egg, I mean, like if you got 60 eggs, you're like, I'm getting bit 60 times. You know, because when they come out of the egg, I rinse them down. I get all the slimy off, I rinse them down, I do that. And I'm like, I'm getting bit by every one of them. I can do a couple hundred retic babies and never get bit, you know? And the thing is, when them little baby berms bite you, it's not once. It's bam, bam. It's like, yeah, it's 2-3 times. And it's like, come on, before you can let go, they're still getting you.
Yeah,
But,
and that's another thing. Like when you compare the big snakes, I don't own an anaconda, but when you compare the retics to the berms and the boas, the baby retics was so much easier to manage than the baby boas or the baby berms.
Yeah,
and that's a fact. And it's so funny how people like they'll draw away from the baby retics or the retics because they think the image that got put out there, and I think that image comes from bringing in those wild courts and people doing those videos, or people doing videos of just the animal being defensive. And I can honestly say, I've never had an experience with any of mine that made me feel like, oh my God, this snake is too much to handle. In fact, as they get older, it's easier for me because they use their brains way more. So it's more of less maneuvering them now. It's just like, I don't have to pick up this weight all the time. They just kind of come out and go back.
Well, they learn their process. They learn their program. They pick up on that. I told you in the beginning, like I feed, when I'm going to feed, I open up on the right side of the cage. And when I'm going to clean or take out to handle, I open up on the left side.
And I've done that from day one.
And coming out the other side, there's still food response on most of them, but it's not as like nutsy to where if I'd opened on the right side of the cage, there's like, it's coming. I know it's coming. Come on. Why are we playing this? But no, I open on the left side, let them come out, let them come out on their own terms to begin with. If I got to give them a little tap to wake them up and get them coming. They're inquisitive animals. They like to search. They love it. They love to explore, and they figure things out. They figure things out that people don't have a clue. One of my most memory stories of what these guys can figure out. Everybody forgets to lock a cage and it opens glass. Okay. The body rubs on it, slides it open, they get out. Oh, well.
They get out.
I was in the middle of cleaning in the early days when I didn't have this house. I was in a rental house. I had a little workshop that I built a small snake room in. It was like a 4-cage snake room. And it had a door on it. And instead of a doorknob in the doorknob hole, I had a slide latch. I didn't have a doorknob, so I put a slide latch on it. Buddy called me up, lived maybe 10 minutes away, and asked me, hey, man, can you come over and help me move something? And I was like, yeah, sure. I'll roll over, man. I'll be there in a minute. I'm in the middle of cleaning. I'll be right there. So I had a lab albino out, kind of put her in there, closed the cage, latched the door, went over. I was gone 45 minutes. I come back in the room to resume my cleaning, and I open the door, and the glass is cracked open on the lab's cage. I didn't latch it. I didn't put a hook on it.
Mm-hmm.
She's out. I'm like, oh, God. It's not a big room, It's like 8 feet long, 6 feet wide. And it's cages on both sides, So I'm like, I look around, I get on a step stool, look up on the top. She's not up there. I'm like, huh. And she was about a 6-foot lavender. I got a mirror stick. I'm a mechanic, so I got mirror sticks.
Okay.
I get a mirror stick. I'm looking behind the cage. And I'm like, no, get on the other side. No, I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, no way. In that 45 minutes, she got out of her cage, cruised the room enough to find the doorknob hole, and got out of the doorknob. And where I found her inside the little workshop was actually on the top of that little room that I built, all the way in the back corner where the light heat had came up through the wood. And she was laying on that hot spot.
Wow.
Inside a cold shed in 45 minutes. I was going
They're
through.
very, I mean, I watch them sometimes just stop, Jim, sometimes and say like it's the leg of a table and just sit there and put their tongue like trying to figure out what is this leg of the table.
Right up to
I'm like,
it.
why are you licking the leg of the table?
Yeah, they're trying to figure out, is that something that they need to worry about? They got to go around. What's in front of them? Yeah, but you were saying the hand movements. You know, people don't realize simple little thing in front of their
Oh
face.
yes, no, go.
It's like, God, don't do that. And that's something that shows. I try and tell people, always keep them away from your face. And you know, when you do enough shows, I always got to talk to people and explain to them, don't do this, don't do that. But you always get somebody that's going to go, oh, we got a 16-footer at home. I know what I'm doing. And I had a kid do just that. He's got this snake in his face. I'm like, hey, man, just don't do it at your face. And I got one at home. And I turned around to answer a question to somebody else. And when I turned back, he's doing this and throws the snake on the ground. And I about lost it. And I look up.
Right. So that's
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to grab this kid by his neck and choke him out. But across the bridge of his nose, he's got a bite, right? I'm like, first I was like, dude, what the? I'm like, I just told you don't get any animal in your face like that.
Right. And that's, I think, like you said, so I don't want any like that in my face, and I don't put real large ones around my neck. You'll see me hold them all other kinds of ways. And my thing with that is, Jim, is that again, when you deal with these snakes enough, you learn that their biggest fear, especially around that 5 feet to 8 feet mark, is to fall.
Yeah.
And the only thing they got to grab themselves or hold on is their mouths at that point. Like, if you're not giving me that security, that's all I have. So I learned that. And so as they get bigger, if you're holding them and you're not giving them that support, they're going to grab onto whatever they can, not trying to hurt you. This is just my natural strength trying to hold on.
They want to feel secure.
Yeah,
they want to feel
I'm
secure.
trying to hold on. I'm sorry that I'm crushing your throat at this particular point, but I'm trying not to hit the ground. So I tell people have all the time. Someone says, Denton said, does Jim have a morph market?
Yes.
Jim, you do? I never go on your morph market.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's another one of those things that I don't overpopulate.
Okay.
But yeah, it's there. People are better off sending me messages and ask me what I got.
Yes, that's how I got all of mine. Then I just inbox them on Facebook. Send me a picture, and I would just tell them, what I might look, or what colors I might want, or things like that. But I will tell you that out of all of my snakes, the one that I'm loving the most as it grows is the lavender sun tiger and that motley tiger head purple. She is a beautiful snake, and I think she's going to be the biggest out of all of them. Yeah,
it's funny how you can put they're just like people. You can put them on the same schedule, the same everything, and they all grow at different rates. They all change on their own rate. It doesn't matter if you could literally get the size of the animal you're feeding them and weigh it within grams of each other. And it's just like people, man. Some people, they ate a French fry and gained 3 pounds.
Yeah.
And same thing with these snakes. People say, oh, something's overfed, that's overfed. And then you find out, no, every bit of it just goes to their ass.
This motley tiger, she's gonna be a beast. Like she has this growth spurt. Like right now, the last 2 months, she just went. But also probably out of all of them, especially the females, she's probably the easiest, to deal with outside of her she doesn't go far. Where the other ones, they're going to explore. She only goes but so far. She'll go into this area at this age anyway. Now she hasn't gone like the other ones. The older ones go upstairs. They go everywhere. And you literally have to listen and watch out for them because they can knock over things that you wouldn't think they can knock over.
Not knock over things. They knock over everything. Everything. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who was purchasing a reticulated python today? What would be the 3 things they should consider before purchasing a retic?
Who it's coming from, obviously. You know, I hate to call them flippers, but they're flippers. If somebody has not produced that animal, they don't know that animal.
That's right.
They don't know the history of that animal and the history of that animal's history. I've got 5-generation females that came from my original het albino, het white female that I still have. She's an 03. She's going on 20 years old.
Wow.
I have daughters, granddaughters. I built it from there. I've varied it up with other males that I've gotten through other people and that kind of stuff. Obviously I've gotten other females from people also, but I've taken over other people's entire collections when they couldn't do it no more and worked out deals with them. Look at the person you're buying from. Again, I'm honest about my background. Look it up. It's not.
Yeah, good. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, nothing I would have looked up because I was interested in snakes, but we talked about it. And I think it actually made me respect you even more about, because it made sense of the person you were, because you would never, the first most expensive retic that I had purchased at that particular time, and then of course the cow, she topped that, was the tiger. And I remember that conversation you and I had, and you was like, but look at the tip of the tail. It was 2. Which one do you want? If you choose this one, look at the tip of the tail. I would have never noticed that tip of the tail. And you know what? To this day, you can't even tell the tail was like that. But I remember you saying, because the tail is like this, this is what I want, this is what you're going to pay. And this is what those were the 2. That was the most expensive snake at that particular time. Yeah. But of course, it was a dream snake.
If they've read
it wasn't as expensive as other people were trying to pay for less quality. Because with a tiger pie, reticulated python, quality does matter. Like when you see how my snake has grown, it got as prettier as it was, and prettier because certain colors start to come out as it gets older that wasn't there when it was actually younger.
Yeah, they gray up and color up and just,
I mean, they're beautiful. They're beautiful. So that would be one. And one thing you just said too, I think is important. You just said, Jim just said he has one that he has since 03. So a 20-year-old animal.
Yeah.
Big animal that you're going to have to feed bigger than rabbit at some point 20 years later, or bigger rabbits.
15-pound piglets.
Yes. I remember when I first brought home it was a 10 or 12-pound rabbit. This was just, my husband's like, who's eating that? And I'm like, these 3. And he was like, no way. I said, watch it. So we fed him the first time. He watched it and he just couldn't get his mind past how wide that they could open. They can
really eat. They can really eat big. They can, and they will. And let me finish before I want to touch, I seriously want to touch something on feeding, but I'll finish up your 3 thing. Yeah. The background genetics of the animal. Look at that. If you're looking for a big snake, and I have people go, I want it big. And I explained to them feeding has a huge percentage of that, but the genetics of the parents have a lot to do with that also. So, people get this thing in their head that they're going to get a snake at the shows. I get this all the time. They're like, oh, they get so big. Like they're going to wake up tomorrow and have an 18-foot retic in their 10-gallon tank. You know what I mean? They got that thing in their head. But my average female is 13-ish feet. breeder, 6, 7, 8 years old. I have a couple 12. I have a couple 16 and 18 footers. I don't think I ever said I got 20-foot retic. Yeah, it might be close, but it's not.
It's
you
not.
know,
And so that's what I say all the time to people.
I've seen 20-foot retics, and man, they're big. They are big. They are big. And they don't have to be fat to be big. Look into that stuff. And last but not least, video. Get a video of the guy handling the animal or lady handling the animal. See what its true temperament is. I do live video stuff because here's the thing. It's easy to open a tub, neutralize the animal, and then go back and do a quick video of you taking it out. Do it live.
Yeah, you know? Jim, you've done that for me all the time. Like, here's your boy, here's your girl, and then go in there, reach in there and get them.
in the years that I've been breeding, I've had one time, I ain't saying that somebody doesn't get a reactive animal. I had one guy call me, and I done video with it. It was a Motley Golden. And it was a great animal. He gets it, and he's like, all it wants to do is bite me. And I'm like, it just got there, maybe shipping, got a little stressed out. Let it calm down. And 2 weeks later, it's like, man, this thing, I'm like, look, I don't want you to suck an animal. I don't want an animal to suck underneath this. So I did a label, ship it back. I'll give you another one. Send them another one. Now, the day I got it back, I took it out, videoed them, and I'm like, so you're talking about this one here, right? This is the mean. He's like, no way. No effort. I'm like, approach. I just don't want you to be unhappy with your animal. So no problem. I'll send you another one. I'll send you something else. But
so I will say though, Jim, don't you think that let's look any like water monitors, because that's another thing. I'll give you an example. I hear that with water monitors. One thing, when you buy a retic or a water monitor, for example, the breeder always says, this is a socialized animal today. In order to keep it this way, these are the things I suggest that you do. With a retic, that first moment, when you talk about that, your approach to them out the box, if you give them that nervous stuff, the steak is now like, what? What's what? I'm on point now. So you gotta go in there and flow with them.
When they're holding it like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you said, I tell people at the shows that are going to hold them both hands. They want to feel safe. They want to be secure. I said, imagine somebody holding you off of a railing by your ankle.
Exactly.
You're going to be freaking
out in the dark all this time.
Yeah. You're going to be freaking out. Security. They want to feel safe. They want to feel secure. So but I really want to touch on the feeding thing.
Yep. Please.
Now you can make them as big as you want to make them. And I mean, I had at one point, a few years back, 10, 11 years ago, I had a pair of pure coyotes. Okay. And they're actually really cool. The female is a sweetheart. And she was 5, 6 years old, about 6.5, 7 foot, maybe. I was feeding about every 10 days. Nothing huge. I don't generally feed anything that puts a monster lump in them. And I couldn't get her to cycle. I could not get her to breed. So I called one of my big breeder buddies, and he said, man, the super drawer stuff, it's all about food, man. Food. Don't have to feed them huge stuff, but you got to feed them. So when she got to 13 feet, I was like, where do I stop? She wasn't grossly overweight, but I had a 13-foot Coyote super dwarf.
Wow. And that's, again, we talk about, it goes back to genetics. And today, my whole thought on the whole super thought thing, I won't even want to talk about. But I honestly think that you don't know. And you touched about even personality. I found, and this is just in my experiences, anything with the golden child blood in it, as a younger, is more sensitive or more reactive. than others. So I sometimes when I think that with the genetics make them more reactive too, because even to this day, the one that you don't want to and I can't even say play with, but the one that you always want to be observing is the Motley Golden Child Sunfire and the Golden Child Cow. Those two females, they are moody. They're moody. Not that they ever want to strike or anything, but they want to let you know their moods that day. They are both moody. I've never had any one of them strike at me, but you can tell when they just don't want to be bothered. And the Motley Golden Child Son, right before shed, leave me alone. I'm in this corner. Leave me alone.
Yeah. But again, so like I said, I didn't feed monster meals. I just fed a little more often. And that's something I see these, like you say, you don't jump on the threads and on the posts and, start correcting people. And I got tired of that years ago. I go back and look at these people that are giving advice and, they've been on the nation for 6 months, 22 years old. They've been on the nation 6 months and they have one retic and you can feed this and you can feed, you can, you absolutely
but is it healthy?
Can. And they will eat it. And I will tell you straight up, I killed my first retic with that. And it broke my heart. She was 7 years old, about 14 foot long. And I had a pet shop that I did a lot of business with by then. And they called me up and they said, hey, we got this turn-in rabbit. It's a big mess. It was an Angora. Angora rabbits get huge. And it's just a balled up mess of fur and this and that. You want it. It's great feeder. Come get it. But it's huge. I pulled my snake out. I had built a 6x6 enclosure in the corner of my garage with a heat lamp and that kind of crap. Typical first-time owner didn't know shit at the time, really. After 7 years of owning that animal, I still didn't know anything like I do now. I drug her out. I fed her that rabbit. It took her about 4 hours to get it down. And I put her right back into that same cage. 4 days later, 5 days later, I opened it up and she was dead and twisted and bloated, huge, and just like I lost my family dog. My wife cried. The kids were broken. I was like, now I know.
Right.
If you're gonna feed like that, first thing you got to do is tons of water. But if you're gonna feed big meals like that, crank your temperature up so they can digest that, so they can break it down, that kind of stuff. But I see these people feeding multiple meals. And again, it's not that they can't.
Right.
They will eat and kill themselves.
It's a lot of work though for their organs and their body.
Well, like you can give them a big meal. Their stomach, can stretch. This way, it can stretch. Length, their stomach doesn't change. So if their stomach's this long, and somebody puts 4 jumbo rats in that stomach, I'm just saying an example, that stomach doesn't stretch this way. It'll stretch round-wise, huge. Oh, yeah, it'll do it.
Got you.
But if they give it multiple food items and you don't know what's already left over in that stomach, valves are going to get left open. Valves aren't going to be able to close. That acid's going to back up and it's going to die. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that, oh man, I had this and it died. And it's like, okay, 2 things on the food. Was it a good food item to begin with? Because I've lost that.
Right.
I lost 18 animals, $40,000 worth of stuff to a tainted food supply from a notable food breeder.
Wow.
Backed up with necropsies and everything, and still got told, you cross-contaminated when you thawed them out.
Wow.
And that's after 8 years of doing this. But and then they turn around, people tell me after they've lost their animal, and it's not animals they've gotten from me, just animals they had.
Right.
I get people all the time. didn't buy an animal from me, but hey, my snake's doing this, my snake's doing that. And it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's a berm, a retic, a boa. If I can help, if I have experience in it in any way, I'll try and give a suggestion. Monitors, lizards, turtles, I know nothing about. I am straight up, I don't know. But often they're like, well, I fed it 3 rats. And I'm like, you fed it 3 rats and 2 days later it died. Yeah, it was eating great, everything. It's like, yeah.
It happens.
You probably.
And that's the thing. I don't believe in, and you can read, even with that, the feeding, you can read them because, Jim, even to what you said, when you feed them a 12-pound rabbit, you can tell it takes them a long time to digest it. That's when your retic is the calmest after it eats. 7 days of no shenanigans.
Just let me lay here and digest. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That's why I leave those big mason bowls in there, because I noticed that when they eat like heavy meals, they'll go and insert themselves in that bowl. Let that water come across their stomach, and they'll stay there for almost 24 hours before you even see them shift back out again.
Yeah, they
and again, these are things that you just pay attention to and you observe. This is what happens with the snake after it eats. So when people ask me how I set up their enclosures, even with that, every snake doesn't go in the water after they eat, but all of them are not eating the same size foods either. So what size is in that water bowl is in there is dependent on that snake. Everything is reading the snake, responding to the snake, and I think that's how you get happy snakes. And going back to what Jim said earlier, with these retics, not one of these retics have the same personality. Not one of them like the same thing. No. Not one of them want to be fed the same. Like I got some that you put and wiggle the food. I got most that I can just drop the food in there and it's going to come to it when it's ready. They're all different. None of them are all the same, and you just have to observe them and spend time with them. Now, do you think that we'll see, with the educating, like having podcasts like this and more exposure about reticulated pythons on the internet now? Not all of it is great exposure, but I will say that the people who do give great education and great representation of them, they're starting to be more visible than even when I started researching them. So do you think that this hobby, as far as pet owners, could grow? Or in your opinion, would you, I know it's tough as a breeder because that's what we do. You sell the retics, but do you think that community could grow with education, or it just needs to stay where it is?
It's, man, as much good like this stuff that there is, and people that do good videos and good information, it's matched with garbage, people showing animals. I somehow some bullshit retic thing popped up on my YouTube feed a couple days ago. Some guy out in his front yard with a 16-foot retic, and he's swinging his hat in a snake's face, getting a reaction out of it. And somebody says, why on earth would you want something that can kill you? Well, why on earth would you antagonize any animal, animal like that, to get a reaction, so you get views, so you get comments? So the people that don't give a shit about the animal doing videos like that are matching the people that are doing good.
Exactly. I saw one that I commented on. It was a baby, not even a baby, it might have been a subadult retic, and the post was simply, why do I have to get bit every day? And but now again, he's asking that as he's totally inappropriately holding a snake. Yeah. And I said on that post is, if your snake is biting you every day, it's something you're doing wrong. There is no snake who wants to bite you every single day at that size. You clearly had this snake since the baby, I'm assuming, because it's not that big of a snake. But you're sitting here videotaping an antagonized snake instead of trying to do the appropriate handling to get that snake to calm down.
Interacting with it. sometimes you get uneasy babies. So just open the tub and hang out with it. You know what I mean? Just let it get a gauge of you for a little while. And if it ain't having it after 15 minutes, close the tub and let it have its peace.
Try it again.
Or cage, whatever you have it, your stuff in. If it's so stressed out that you can't walk by without it striking, cover the glass up. Let it have its space, you know, until it calms down. I had one early in my thing, first year or so. It was a tiger, had titanium. Great little animal. And it was 6, 7, 8 months old. And all of a sudden, I don't know. I still don't know what I did. Got it stressed out. You know, it quit eating for 2 months. All it wanted to do was strike. It didn't want to be messed with. So at some point, I did something wrong, stressed it out. And basically the best thing, I mean, I'm freaking out. It's got to eat. It's got to eat. So I try everything, taking it out of its cage, putting it in its cage, doing this, live, dead, whatever. But no, it just got stressed. Covered it up, left it alone. And it calmed down after a couple of weeks and came back around little by little.
Right.
But if it's stressed, forcing attention down its throat, and especially if it's adverse attention, like you're saying, this guy, forcing that down his throat ain't going to make it better. And yeah, I mean, obviously that person's just trying to get views, you know.
But and that's the thing. What I want to see is more people getting views to show what's amazing about these animals. It's not the defensiveness; it's the ability to use their brain, their ability to respond to things that you would not think they could respond to. Like you will be amazed, like almost like you can have a conversation, kind of, you know, with instinctual.
They can analyze things. Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
it's very like crazy.
They will think and analyze and figure stuff out. You know, the most basic thing in their caging. You know, if they find a weak point, they feel something move, they'll keep working that point, thinking they're going to get it. You know, they're going to get it.
I love it. I love it. I like watching them on the camera at night. I shared the story of how they know where the lock is in their cage. So late at night, you can find half of them, like almost as if they're trying to figure out from the inside how the lady turns the lock here. Because this is, if I can get this off, I know I can slide this door.
Yeah, it's something here, and then it opens up. Something here. Yeah.
And I sit there, we be watching. I'm like, this is hysterical. But that's what people should show, because I will tell you that was the thing that made me fall in love. I was like, this snake watches me, babe. Like she watches me, because I had the girl first, and then I'm handling her more and more and more. I'm like, look how smart it is. You know, when it came down to even one of my favorite videos I did, I might have been like a short video. It's showing when I first introduced him to taking baths outside of the water in the enclosure, going down into those bins. When she will come out, look at the water, and just go down into the water on her own. That was my first, oh my God, the snake knows it's a bath.
Yeah, and you got him into that routine. Now they know what it is. It's not a shock. Yeah. It's not a stranger. It's all natural to them.
Part of what I do.
Yep. I've got about a 16-foot platinum golden child. Sweetheart, just absolute sweetheart. I've used her for all kinds of video shoots, modeling shoots, you know, all that kind of stuff. I've got this big tote, black tote, with a, you know, big yellow lid on it. I will bring that into the room, lay it in front of her cage, open her glass, and she will come out. You know, I'll give her a little tap. She'll come out. You know, any of the other ones, they blow right past it. You know, right up over it, right past. She comes out. She goes in it. She curls up. Like, this is it. And when we come home, all I do is open the lid, open her cage, and I go do my thing, and she comes out and goes in her cage.
Yep. And that, to me, when I figured that out, was magical. When I figured out, like, this snake is going, I think I might have messaged you, like, Jim, I think the snake is figuring out how to go You know, I know I messaged Randy too. I was like, the snake is going home.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had those moments where I've walked in my room. Now, with a room like I got, with all that I got, you don't always make sure something's locked, you know, that kind of stuff. I try and every night lock, go through my process now. But you never just open the door and walk in. You know, you open the door, you look in, and if there's a bunch of stuff knocked on the floor, you know, your little ladder knocked over, it's like, oh man, who got out? I've had more than a couple of times where, you know, years ago that the snake had come out, made the rounds, made a mess, and it's sitting in its cage with the glass slit open that much going, it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yes, that's like, one of my favorite retic stories.
Sleeping away because she had such a busy night.
You know it's the retic. You know it was one of y'all. One of y'all was out.
Yeah. Destroyed the room, stuff everywhere, in there sleeping away. Like, no, I don't know what happened. I heard a noise and, you know, I don't know, man. You know,
and that's why you let them out, though, Jim. I think that, like, the people who have problem with their snakes pushing at night and stuff like that, other than, you know, temps and stuff like that can be an issue. But if all that's in order, you let them burn themselves out. So when they in there, that's what they're doing. We're not worried about if it's a 15 by 15 by 15 because the snake literally is going in there to rest only. Because they've been out wreaking havoc on everything all day.
they need their exercise like any other animal, you know? And if you get them out and you let them cruise around and they stretch their legs, so to speak, and when they're done, they go in their cage, curl up, and they're like,
I'm good.
No need to bother me, man. I'm wore out. Yeah, and then the next day you throw a meal on that, and that animal ain't moving for days.
Yeah, that's what I said, about good 7 days with the big ones once they have a good meal. So before I go, I want to touch two things before we go. Your experiences, because you do a lot of herping when you go to Thailand. And I'm always hoping and praying that Jim finds a retic, because, you know, people think that retics are everywhere in Thailand, just walking around, crossing the street. And Jim has not shown me one yet in the wild. Now, I love the one the video you recently did when you went to visit somebody's facility. Those retics were amazing.
Doc has a massive collection. And I mean, I was probably moving through that video so quick because I suck with camera work in that situation, but amazing. I am the worst snake in the wild guide you could ever contact for a trip with. I cannot locate a retic in the wild to save my life. I have tried different areas, different times, caves, different seasons. I mean, like I can go out on the roads here in the springtime and find Mojave greens everywhere out where I live, right? Everywhere. I know exactly where to go, what time of night, what time of year. I can find them all over the place. I've done 4 hours of driving 3 different times between 10 and 2, 11 and, you know, all night long, driving roads, jungle cruising, going through the rice fields. And I found a couple of keel snakes and that kind of stuff, but I can't find a retic. And the slap in my face is 3 days after I had left on a trip 10 months ago. My my fiance's uncle, that like her whole family lives in this little neighborhood area where they live, right? And it's farmland out there and it's very rural. Her uncle is right down the street, her uncle's house. And 3 days after I left, he's got a 12-foot retic that had gotten into his chicken coop.
Wow.
Ate 2 chickens and couldn't get out.
And I ask all the time, do you see any retics? And you was one place where there was water monitors all over the place. I'm like, well, is there any retics? Because
Yeah.
my assumption based on what other people thought was that it would be easy to just go into the jungles, into the woods, into the waters. Because Jim does this at night in Thailand too. Because I mean, you know, him and his fiance, and they have the little scopes on, and they still have not found a retic.
I've gone to cave areas and walked all over the place. It gets hot there during the day, and that's the other thing.
That's another because they don't like the heat.
That's just it. People think, oh, they got to be 95 degrees. No. You and that's just it. During the hot season, they're not coming out during the day. They're coming out at night, late at night. And like I said, prime example of her uncle's house. I had been all around that house. Every night I go out walking, herping. I've been on the backside through the fields. He's got like a little creek that rolls between his property and the rice fields, and it's about 8 foot down. And I'm like looking down in there, going, "This is prime snake area. You couldn't ask for anything better." And big as can be. 3 days after I leave, here's a 12-foot retic, and they took some video and pictures of it for me and sent it to me, and I'm like, that it looks like a platinum, you know?
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, and here's the plus side of things, you know. I've educated a lot of them there that snakes aren't all bad. They help with rodents and that kind of stuff. Not every snake is a cobra, and there are cobras in that area.
Right.
There's like 5 different species of cobras: king cobras, spitting cobras, Vietnamese cobra, just all kinds of cobras. So I haven't come across those yet either. But other than roadkill, I have seen a couple of roadkill ones. But you know, 2 years ago, they just would have chopped that snake's head off. Instead of because it's a snake, instead of making a call and having a guy come out and remove it and relocate it. So as much as they call him a professional handler, came out in our standards, by our standards, it's kind of brutal. You know, they don't have the best equipment, but they got that snake out of there and released it back in the mountains and didn't kill it, you know.
And that's, again, the importance of education, though, because people, again, just don't understand and comprehend. I know, like, even with me, with the bigger snakes, knowing everything I know of them now, I wish I had known years ago, because I would have started this journey, because they are everything for me. I love these snakes. My granddaughter loves these snakes. Their ability to, just like I said, intellectually communicate blows my mind every day. And still, as they grow, I watch them do something or figure out something new. Like the one day I share when the pod actually was trying to open up the door to the rat room. I mean, it was persistent. Like, was literally, okay, this is the door, I know. And I put my body like this, and this is the note, trying so hard. I'm videotaping this in amazement.
Yeah.
Like, if you told somebody that could do that, the reason why I share that stuff is because I need people to see it. Because I would have never believed that a snake could come out of its enclosure, figure out that this is the room where she keeps those rats.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the key to the vault. Yeah, I've got the key to the vault here. I just got to learn how to work it. Yeah, that's an unlimited supply right there. That's a dream come true for them. Yeah.
But the cool thing is too is that people would always told me that you'll never be able to, have food out while they're around. I don't have that issue with them either. They know the difference. If for whatever reason they're out. That day, I watched, and I show everybody on that video, he's in front of the rat room, but I can still, with this one, go and put my hands on him and move him away from that door.
Yeah.
And you just know that based on, again, their personalities and their reactions. It's something about their eyes. Their whole face change when they're defensive. Like, it's a different look than anything. And I love those animals. And I thank you for giving me that experience, because if my very first retic was anything like the other experiences that other people have, I would not be able to be blessed to get to love on these 8 that I have in here today.
And that to me has more value to it than world's first notoriety. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, I when I got my pies, like I said, they were hell. And my thing is, yeah, everybody's making pies. Everybody's going to make pies. I want to make pies people can enjoy, you know? And that's what I was like, that was it, man. I'm like, these might take a little more work, and they really didn't. You know, they really didn't, opposed to my other projects, you know? But so many people love their pies and hate them at the same time. Oh, yeah, beautiful animal. Absolutely amazing. I dig it. Yeah, I don't see any pictures of you with it. Well, yeah, it's not the nicest animal, you know. So you love it, but you can't interact with it.
Thanks, yeah. And what fun is that?
Man, and that's just it, you know. I mean, I wouldn't want to have a dog I couldn't pet.
Right.
You know,
and people say all the time, it's like, no way, that's a pie. I've never seen a pie that calm. I'm like, well, apparently I have one. Randy has 2 calm ones.
Yeah, I've got a lot of people that are like, man, that pie is sweet. It's sweet. It's cool. It's calm. It's this and that. I work with them a lot. I really do. I have a couple people that come over and, you know, help me out here and there. And that helps, I think, having different personalities. Everybody has a different smell, a different, you know, whatever to them. So, you know, I get a couple of different people that are interacting with stuff, and that, you know, that helps, I think, you know, I believe. But interaction in general, you know, as long as it's positive and they feel solid and they feel secure, interaction, you can't beat it. And that's
why I get so excited when they just travel, because it makes me know that they're comfortable, because we know if they're not, they're going to go hide somewhere. They come out and they just go. They just go, and it just makes me so happy. It's the joy of actually owning them. So are you doing Anaheim or Pomona this year?
All of the above. Yes.
Okay.
I'll be at Pomona in 2 weeks. Absolutely. Anaheim, most likely, if I'm not in Thailand.
Aren't you due back in a few? Well, so Jim goes to Thailand. Is it like every other month? Because it seems like you're there a month, every other month.
4 times a year for 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, Jim be gone. And it's the funniest video that you did. It was during COVID, and it was a video that you posted about the employer telling the employee they can't take the time off.
Yeah,
it's hysterical. I said, because Jim definitely going to be gone for at least 30 days.
yeah. It's kind of a funny little thing. As I said earlier, I'm a motorcycle mechanic by trade. 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, I got fired at my job. Shop that I've been at for 17 years because I had a bad. I straight out, I had a bad attitude. Boss pissed me off about a couple of things, and he pulled me to the side and he had to talk to me. He's like, Jim, man, you know, usually at most businesses, when the owner shows up, they're like, oh God. Here, it's like when you show up, everybody's like, oh God. You know, I don't hold back. I say what I got to say. I say what's on my mind. And somebody's an idiot, I tell them they're an idiot. I told the owner he was an idiot more than a couple of times. Fuck off. I'm going to lunch. He fired me. Yeah, he fired me. 2 years later, now I do my thing, whatever. My job's my job. I enjoy it. I like working on motorcycles. I don't have to, but, you know, so I did my thing. 2 years later, I still pop in the shop, say hi to the other people, other mechanics, you know, even the owner. I consider him a friend. You know, I was just in one of those things in life at the time that I hated everything and everybody other than what I was doing. Right. And I was showing him pictures from the last trip, you know. It's like, he says, Jim, you seem better, man. You're talking better. You seem a little happier. And I'm like, oh, man, I'm having the time of my life. I said, you know, he's like, so you ready to come back? I just started laughing, you know. I was like, the funny thing is I am bored. 7 days a week for 2 years of just doing what I wanted to do around the house. It gets old. It really does. I like to work. I said, but I want to come back, but on my terms. I don't want to be the 9 to 5 grind. I don't want to be the 6 days a week. I've got enough going on that I'm happy enough in my life. I'm not rich by a far cry, I work my ass off. I'm up every night, 2, 3 in the morning. I get up the next morning at a spur of 9 o'clock and go to work.
Right.
But I told them I don't want to get bitched at when I roll in late because I'm going to be late. But I don't want to work 5 days a week either. I said 2, 3 days a week. He goes, no, that's good. That's fine. No problem, man. If you got your attitude the way you are, and like I said, that was 4 years ago. And I roll in at 9:30, 10, 10:30. I leave when we close. If I'm taking a trip, he knows plenty ahead of time. He knows everything. It's not like, oh, hey, I'm gone tomorrow. I'll see you in a month. No, we clear everything out. He knows plenty ahead of time. Just like this, I told him 3 weeks ago. I marked it on the calendar. I ain't going to be there. We're only half open today anyways. But if I'm doing a show, I remind them. I communicate everything. And vice versa. They take their trips to Hawaii 3 times a year. I've been with this shop a long time. I worked for him the first time in 91. We grew up in the same town. But I ran the service department for 5 years. I worked myself in the first 5 years of doing this and being out from an $8 an hour employee to running the service department, opening and closing the business. I bought a new house. I got out in 2003. I bought a new house in 2008. So I busted my ass for 5 years and continued to do that for a long time. Now I'm 60 years old. Never thought I'd be doing retics in my 40s. I was like, mid 50s. I don't want to be 60 and be wrestling snakes. But I love it. I love it. I like staying busy. I keep busy. Like I said, I'm up every night, 2, 3 in the morning, go to bed. I get up at 8:30, go to work, do that.
And then go off to Thailand for a month.
That's just it.
I go to Thailand too because the time difference is different. So Jim is actually posting when we should be sleeping, but when it pops up, I got to see what Jim doing because it's always something so beautiful, something so amazing, like nature at its finest. And of course, your fiance is just so sweet and gorgeous, and you guys give us an insight because I never realized that Thailand was so cheap compared to United States. Like the resorts that you go to, I'm like, what? And you pay how much a night?
Where do we go from here on that? Since everything went to shit in America about 2 years ago, I'm not naming names. I'm not blaming nobody, right? Things kind of went to shit 2 years ago. I can go to Thailand and everybody throws out everything in the world's gone up everywhere. Is that still that man's fault? I travel the world, people. I see China. I see Japan. I see Korea. I see this. I've been there through COVID. Through COVID, I still traveled. I did 19 days quarantine so I could be in Thailand.
Yep.
In a quarantine facility there, not on my own. So when I first made my first trip to Thailand, in 3 days, I was like, I'm going to retire.
I'm living here.
I'm going to retire here. I am absolutely going to live here.
Wow.
And I hadn't even been to the beach yet.
Right, because that was a whole nother experience.
You can go, now there, 7-Elevens are everywhere. I mean, literally everywhere. Like your residential neighborhood, if you were in Thailand, you would have 3 within 100 yards of your house.
Wow.
They're everywhere.
Wow.
So you go to any 7-Eleven and you get a bottle of water. Same bottle of water in Thailand. Okay. Only in Thailand, they're 20 ounces, not 16.5, I think it is. You can go to any 7-Eleven, any store, any Family Mart there in Thailand, and it is 5 baht when I first went there. Okay. 5 baht is the equivalent. You basically times it, whatever the price is, you times it by 3. So it's 5 baht, 15 cents.
Wow.
15 cents for a bottle of water, the same company, Nestle Pure Life, that's 20 ounces and not 16. I think that's what it is. Yeah, 16.9 fluid ounces. Sorry. It's 20 ounces and it's 5 baht. That was in the beginning. That bottle of water in Thailand has now gone all the way to 6 baht a bottle. It's ridiculous how much.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Everything is shifting.
It's 18 cents. You know, a bottle of water has gone up 1 baht, which is 3 cents. Gas has gone up. Yes, gas, everything has gone up, but not like here. Not like here. We were paying $6.50 a gallon here in LA 3 months ago. It's come down now. I think we're at $4.39 at Arco.
Gotcha.
But I have had 4.5 and 5-star hotels for $20 a night.
I know. This is insane.
Including buffet breakfast with god awful crazy good food. And I'm like, between the two of us, we're eating $20 worth of food. You know?
That to me is just totally insane.
Yeah. Transportation. My first trip there, did a 17-hour, was it 17 hours? 17-hour train ride from Bangkok to northern Ubon. It was $12 for air-conditioned second-class car.
Wow.
$12. Yeah. Taxis, like 45. My first trip there, I land at the airport. A girl meets me. We take a taxi back to her condo. And it was like a 45-minute taxi ride. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, this is going to be like $100 freaking taxi ride. And the first trip I went there with, I was going to be there 2.5 weeks and I had like a $2,000 budget, right? I was like, that's what I had in cash. That's what I was rolling with. And I was like, my God, this is going to be crazy. This is just, my God. So I done a little exchange at the airport, which for anybody that's going to travel, if you're going to exchange money at the airport, do the least amount you need to do so you can get into a downtown area where you can you'll have exchanges there and you can exchange the money at a much better rate. The airport exchange rate is going to rape you. It's bad. Wow. But I had exchanged a couple $100 at the airport, didn't know about it, didn't know it. And I didn't know the conversion of baht to dollar. So we take the taxi ride and it was like 350 baht. So I gave him 50 baht tip. So it was 400 baht, which is like $12.
Wow.
I was like, yeah, I was literally after I figured out the exchange rate on that next day I was thinking about it. I was like, it was a 45-minute taxi ride. And the guy was doing 70, 75 miles an hour the whole time, you know? And I'm like, I can't believe that. I mean, in America, that kind of ride would have been a couple $100.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference of the cost of living. I mean, there's been some places that are like Turks and Caicos that was way more expensive than America. But when you think of Thailand, you think because it's so far away, and you know, it's a beautiful place. You would think it would be way more expensive, but. Yeah. So I would say thank you everybody in the chat. This has been a little over 2 hours, but I knew it would be. I knew we would have a lot to talk about. So I appreciate everybody in the chat. Kevin, thank you for joining us. Kevin actually follows a lot of my YouTube.
Cool.
And him and his wife, they love the big snakes, and he's probably one of the first people that actually, gave me the "you're doing a great thing," outside of the people that I normally would be communicating with the animals. So I do appreciate everybody in the chat. Glad Kevin was able to join this one. I want to remind everybody of some of y'all already received the invites, but on New Year's Eve, we're having a New Year's Eve Reptiles and Cocktails. So we won't be at our 1 o'clock p.m. normal. It's going to be 11 o'clock p.m. tonight. We're going to bring in a New Year's together for anybody who wants to join. There are certain people who got the invite to join the panel. Keeping in mind that only 10 people can be on the panel at a time. So if you try to enter and you receive the invite, just let me know, and then we'll try to just kind of like bounce people in and out of there. But I want us to take a time to reflect on this year that I started this podcast. And I want to reflect on a couple things. I want to review my top 12 for the year. Then I'm going to tell y'all who the people's top 5 for the year are. And then I'm going to pick the people's top 1 live podcast and my top live podcast, and there's going to be a surprise after that. So it's amazing, Jim, doing these, and the podcast that people like the most is not always the big popular breeders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's normally getting to know people for who they are and learn about their experiences with animals and how they got here today. And I think that is what your experiences with your animals and how, they've been beneficial to your life and everybody else is the story that if we tell a little bit more, it normalizes the animals. And that's what I try to do here, to not just make it something that we do as a hobby, but to understand that they're a big part of the people we are today. Thank you, Mitzi.
Yes.
Have a Merry Christmas. But Jim, I thank you for so much for doing this.
Thank you.
I know that, like I said, you don't find Jim Jolley on a lot of lives, but I know that we talked about that maybe, even when you go to Thailand, you're going to try to do more and things like that, just to kind of show us a different culture and hopefully show me a reticulated python that's actually in
wild. Now I have been promised we will go to an area that will do that. Okay. My next trip, we have arranged a few things. We are going to take a jungle trip that we are going to be with my buddy Doc that you saw the video in. He has amazing connections.
I mean, he has some amazing
connections. And the man is a great guy, just a great guy. I made a good friend in that guy, and I dig him. I love him. He's a good person. And like I said, he's the guru of vets for exotics in Thailand. So with him knowing all the people he knows at the zoos and the wild animal parks, he knows the whole realm. And we've made a big plan for the next trip, which should be in April. So
I will definitely stay tuned for
end of March into April.
Okay. I just love the fact that you get to live like that, Jim. I think it's exciting. I always say that work-life balance, you can't give it all to work. You got to give it to life, because that's what we on that bed on our last day, when we take our last breath, we want to reflect on life. We don't want to reflect on how much we worked in life. We want to reflect on how much we lived. Like, my dad died at 53. And I remember when he realized that the cancer had progressed so much that he wasn't, they basically told him he only had a few more weeks. And I cried so hard. I came up here from DC. I was in school at the time, in college at the time, and I went to see my dad. And I'm like, "You're giving up on me. You're giving up on me. Why are you just gonna let them tell you?" I was so angry with him because he brought us all there to tell us that, I'm leaving. This is it. And accept it, y'all. This is what I want y'all to focus on. You did this, you do that. He wanted to give us his last moments. And I remember being so angry with my dad, his sisters, and everybody. His siblings was here from out of town, and I stomped out that hospital room. I was angry. So my aunt got me to go back. She said, "Your daddy wants you." And he sat me on that bed and he said, "Baby, I lived." He said, "Think of one thing I wanted to do that I didn't do." And when I think of my daddy, I could not think of anything that man did not do.
You don't want to be there. Like you said, you don't want to be there, not going, "Man, I didn't do this, I didn't do that." And on top of that, when somebody says, like I said, I'm not rich, everything I have, I don't live in a bitchin' house. It's a nice house. It gets the job done. I'm not just throwing money around, believe me. But when somebody says, I must be nice, God fucking straight right, it's nice.
Because I work
my ass off for everything I do, and it is nice. I have no regret over that. I have no sympathy. If they have not done what they need to do to enjoy, like I said, I'm 60 now. 60. Yeah. I'm like, 6 years ago when I started going to Thailand, I'm like, I don't want to just die, never going anywhere. I don't want to die. You start thinking about that. No, I'm doing it. It is nice. Yeah, I'm not doing it on my own jet. I'm not just, I'm in coach. I'm not doing first class trips. I'm in coach. I ride that 18-hour plane trip, but yeah, it is nice. And don't ever feel bad about enjoying
Say it again.
Don't ever
especially when you work hard to get to where you got.
About enjoying your life.
Yeah.
Ever. And now when somebody says it must be nice, tell them flat out, it is. God damn it. It's real nice. It's real nice. And be smug about it, because if you've worked for it and it wasn't, and believe me, nothing was handed to me. I had nothing in 2003. Literally nothing. I got everything I need, not necessarily everything I want. I got everything I need. I'm happy. I have a great time. We do side trips. Yeah, we do side trips on my trips and do this and do that. And I've been to Bali. It was what it was. That's a whole nother show. It is so touristy, but beautiful parts there. A lot of men have made beautiful parts there. But no, enjoy your life, people, man. Whatever it doesn't
live a little, live a lot, right?
It doesn't have to be extravagant to be good, and and I get it when I go to work and I roll in at 10:30 in the morning. I got this old bitter mechanic, a couple years younger than me. Must be nice. It's
I don't feel guilty at all.
He ain't got a clue that I was up at 7 in the morning pulling eggs, getting a 16-foot retic off. He ain't got a clue. I'm just later than my normal late in his head. Right. He ain't got a clue. And that was my agreement. I never get a peep out of my boss because the second he does, no problem, man. I ain't got to work. I'll go do my thing. I'll work harder at home. Enjoy your life. Absolutely.
Enjoy your life. So that's what we want y'all to take away from this one. Enjoy your lives. Jim put in a lot of work. So do all of you guys. Love your animals. Take great care of your animals. But at the meantime, in the same time, please enjoy your life. Live a little. Don't work forever. Because no one want to work until they die. And the reality of it is, like Jim said, at 60, we're not living into 100 years old, a lot of us. So we ain't got much left in us.
It's scary.
So
it's scary. It's scary. It really is. So
let's make it the best.
And if you're doing something you don't like, life is life. I preach this hard to all my friends. If you're pissed off about something and you're pissed off about that all the time, life is what you make of it. Get the hell away from that. Remove it. Remove it, remove you, whatever it takes. Life is what you make of it. And you watch these shows about, this guy, he'll never be anything. All right, I might not be anything, but I'm happy. I still, you can make your life out of whatever it is. And don't never let somebody else tell you you can't do this.
And you're happy and you're still a good person. You're not happy at anybody else's demise. Right.
I can't tell you how many people told me, you're going to breed snakes and make money? Really? Breed snakes and make money? I bought my house. You know, it gave
In
me the money.
California.
It you know, yeah, it gave me the money. I was a renter my whole life. It gave me the money to put down on my house. It helped that it was in 2008, you know, when the market had crashed. But yeah, I mean, otherwise I'd still be a renter. I'm gonna piss a lot of people off real quick financially. I can live on $1,400 a month. So I don't have to do a lot. I can make my mortgage payment. I paid my truck off. I bought a brand new truck a few years back.
Yeah.
I paid it off. I can make my mortgage payment, my electric bill, my cell phone bill, my cable, my internet. I can pay all my bills for $1,400 a month.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna piss a lot of people off. But
that's amazing. In California. I'm still in California.
In California, yeah. I got people with houses like mine that are paying $2,800 a month for their mortgage, or $3,200 a month for rent. For a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1,400 square foot on an acre. Yeah, I've got it okay, you know. And I ain't got to worry about roommates. I ain't got to worry about anybody here. My house is my house. But yeah, if you set yourself up right and wait for the market to hit at the right time, hit it when it's right. Because man, like a year ago, I think my house was estimated at like 420,000. I think it's down to like 3.5. I owe 70, so I'm gonna be okay when I sell it.
Exactly. I was going to say, and take that money to Thailand. You're going to
and that's just it. You know, people talk about, oh, you need this to live, you need that to live. It's going to cost me to get a modern 2-bedroom, 2-bath house built over there where we bought our property about $26,000.
And that's a nice location. It has a nice view and everything. So
I've got
good for you.
Yeah, I got a beautiful view of the mountain range. And what we didn't get on film, there's certain times of the year that when the sun's going down at the mountain range, the bats come out of the mountain and it looks like a black cloud coming out of the mountain. And we couldn't, the last time there, we went there a couple of times. Well, now they're coming out. So, yeah, well, we got some beautiful backdrop.
I'm certainly proud of everything you've done. Thanks again. Thanks everybody in the audience. And I'm going to let Jim take his Saturday back. I'm going to give you guys your Christmas Eve back. Today is my husband's birthday. Man. Shout out to him. Happy birthday. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for everybody in this chat. I'm grateful for you, Jim. I'm grateful for all my babies. And I can just promise you that they will be spoiled for as long as they live.
I know.
I love them.
They will be a great animal for a long time for you. The way you take care of them, they're going to live a long time. No doubt about that.
Yeah.
You know?
I try to give them everything that they need. So if there's ever any failure, I always can be content with what it wasn't. Nothing that I didn't give them.
You've given them everything you could possibly give them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say, and then some. I mean, really. They've got a great setup. Everything's perfect, and you're on it. You're on it. Like, things go wrong. Heat pads go bad. Controllers go bad. If you're ignoring stuff for a week, that's how you end up with bigger problems. Yeah.
Oh, these things got all kinds of cameras on them, sensors, all of that.
Yeah.
I can tell you what's going on in my house, and I'm not even there. I need you to check this enclosure.
I walk around with a temp gun in my pocket because every time a cage gets opened, I'm checking heat pads and sides, and because like I said, things go wrong.
Yeah, you gotta stay on top of it. But
absolutely.
You all have a very Merry Christmas. Thank you so much. Hope to see you guys. If you can hang out with us on New Year's Eve. Also want to remind everyone that I am looking for sponsors now. So if you're interested, you can DM me if you're interested in a sponsorship. Shout out to Gershon, who jumps on one of my first sponsorship opportunities, and there's other opportunities open. And I will love to help grow your brand as you help grow mine in our partnership. So thank you so much all. And don't forget, 4 o'clock today is a new time for craft brew. I want everybody to go over at 4 o'clock if you can, just to show some love to Kent Beers at Craft Brew. Have a happy Merry Christmas. I'm Greg Gill. If y'all didn't hear, my grandson came down here a couple times. They're here. This is the first Christmas Eve that I got them. Normally I don't get them until Christmas Day. So this is really cool to have them here Christmas Eve. And then, play the whole Santa thing. So I got to go make sure we bake cookies and get the milk and all of that set up and, get the bacon and cooking for the dinner for my husband today. So again, it's just been a hell of a year, and I cannot wait to just thank you all on New Year's and everybody. But Jim is a big part of everything that I'm doing. The Retics have really given me a story, Jim, that I love to share. If you ever want to get me on a tangent, everybody knows, say the word reticulated python. And I just got so much wonderful things to say about them. And I'm just like waiting for that opportunity that they can be presented more and more congressionally, so people can see that these animals can cohabitate in good captive bred environments. So it's not always a subject of different states not being able to keep them. I'm blessed to be where I am, and there's no issue, but there's people who could have great experiences with these animals in other states who can't today.
And they can't. Yeah, that sucks. That really
sucks. Yeah. So to all of you, bye. I see you guys
thank
later.
You.
Have an amazing day. And thank you for tapping in and joining me and Jim. We had over 30 people watching today on Christmas Eve. So that was really, really great. So thank you guys so much. Have a good one.
Good night. Good day. Merry
Bye.
Christmas.